Okay, I'll call the city council adjourned meeting for Monday, November the 18th, November the 19th, 2007 to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Roll call, Tracy, please.
Arbogast,
Here.
Garnos,
Here.
Gisselbeck,
Here.
Heller,
Here.
Meisenheimer,
Here.
Solberg, Solom, Walder,
Here.
Wilkins, and York.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Before I begin, I'd like to welcome the Boy Scout Troop Number 209. I guess they're earning their merit badge, so welcome to this evening's meeting. First agenda item is the approval of the minutes of the city council meeting held on November the 5th, 2007. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Heller. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Garnos. Any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 2 is the Carter May addition. Rick, you'll lead us through that.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, the second reading of this ordinance, 07-32, an ordinance amending zoning district boundaries by zoning real property in the plat of Carter May Addition.
Okay, I will formally open the public hearing in regards to zoning ordinance number 07-32. Rick, you'll be first.
Thank you, Mayor. This petition for actually annexation and zoning kind of go together. Your petitioners and applicants, Dennis V. Mack, Cheryl L. Mack, Lon A. Tosted, and Louise K. Tosted, bring this petition to you. Their consultant, Rod DeYoung from Austin Engineering, assisted them and us as well in moving this thing through the process. The applicant wishes to annex land into the city and apply a C3 zoning, which is highway commercial zoning, that designation to the entire parcel that's to be platted yet this evening. Recall that we had the first reading of the ordinance the last time we met on the 5th of November. On the annexation and zoning, while no specific use is proposed at this time, it seems to us that the C3 zoning is appropriate. It's consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Staff recommends approval in this regard. It does come with the recommendation of the Plan Commission as well. As to, well, and perhaps that's enough said on the zoning, I can show everyone where it is. Perhaps that would help. We've got, our GIS tool, Highway 212. If you can see the cursor moving from the right-hand side of the drawing right now to the left-hand side of the drawing. This is the intersection of 23rd Street. The property that we're talking about is located right here. You're seeing two parcels there, or two lots, which will become one lot, the Carter May Addition. I can show you again another, as to the zoning, the existing zoning in that vicinity. You can see across Highway 212, the zoning is already C3. Adjacent, Dr. Prouty's office complex there is zoned C3. You can see that the TSC store is zoned C3. The property adjacent, those homes, are also C3. You can see Mr. Robert Endry's farm is located out in the county yet, so of course no city zoning affixed to that. The pink down here in this area is Endry's Industrial Park, zoned I1. And then the Applebee's area, Culver's, etc., Walmart, those are all C3 zoning designations as well. So it certainly seems to fit, especially with its frontage along Highway 212.
Anything else, Rick?
Not for me, unless there's someone here from the audience that would care to speak in this regard.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this ordinance number 07-32? Rick, was there any controversy whatsoever in regards to this?
Nope, this is one of the easier ones.
Okay, very good. If not, then I'll close the public hearing and go to council action. Is there a motion then for the approval of zoning ordinance number 07-32?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Gisselbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is the annexation resolution 07-63.
We've already taken action on the zoning. It certainly seems appropriate that we should annex this
Okay.
property then. And same comments. I don't think I have anything else to add, except just note that both the annexation and the annexation resolution and the zoning ordinance that you just passed both have the condition of platting within 1 year. If that doesn't happen, the effectiveness of the zoning ordinance and the resolution just kind of goes away without further action by this council.
Okay. Is there a motion then for the approval of Resolution 07-63, which is annexation? So moved by Alderman Solberg, seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Any addition, questions, or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is plat approval, Resolution 07-64. Rick?
Again, I just bring up a copy of the plat. It's very simple. You can see Prouty Second Edition to this property is the Carter May Edition's immediate west. You can see the location of the Willow Creek Subdivision number 1, lots 3 and 4, in its location there. I will point out in this drawing, because we'll talk a little bit about it, I want to point out some things in the letter of assurance, which has been signed, so that's always a good thing, too, that we can make that statement in this setting. But again, U.S. Highway 212 is located in the north of this property. Future, is it 9th or 10th Avenue, must be future 10th Avenue South, is to be located down here. And the reason I point that out is the applicants have already signed a letter of assurance indicating their willingness to give up the right to protest the future construction of that street and their participation in it. So that's kind of an important fact at this point. I will point out that we're expecting final grading plans and the erosion and sediment control plans in conjunction with the building permit rather than at the time of platting. Seemed to make sense on this one to forego that. The applicant does not intend to do any construction at this time, only under the building permit time. Really has no control and no need for us being the city, to demand infrastructure in terms of roads, Highway 212 or 10th Avenue South at this time. So it just makes sense to forego those things until building permit time, which we'll certainly enjoy dealing with them at that point. Note that there is a shared access at this point, right? The cursor right now is on the Prouty Second Edition, and that access point has been moved to just this lot line right there. Note that there's probably around 6 or 7 accesses onto Highway 212 there. We've been working with the property owners, and the DOT has actually. They're the ones that control that access, and that is their responsibility. But we're looking to reduce that number from 7 down to 4, perhaps 3. And the applicants in Carter May Edition have agreed along with Dr. Prouty, to use a common shared access at that point. So that's kind of significant and very nice of them to do that, actually, to share that access to reduce the conflict points onto 212. Bike trails, sidewalks, if those ever occur in the future, have been accommodated for in the letter of resolution, or I'm sorry, the letter of assurance. We've also made the applicant aware of their tapping charge that will come due at time of building permit. That's about $990. With that, I just recommend your approval of the letter of assurance that we have already got in place and approval of the plat.
If so, I'd like to have a motion to approve Resolution 07-64. That's the plat approval. So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 is the proposed lease of the city property to the Brookings Municipal Utilities. And Stanton, you'll lead us through that?
Certainly, Mayor. As those of you on the Public Works Committee know, probably a couple months ago, we were approached by Brookings Municipal Utilities that also operates Swiftel Communications, indicating that they'd identified some capacity problems around the area of 19th Street and Highway 212, and had also identified some land that they knew was under city ownership that they'd like to consider discussing with the city erecting a temporary communication tower at a site on city-owned property to try to see if they can't figure out their capacity issues. With the Public Works direction, I entered into negotiations with the Brookings Municipal Utilities to try to find out a lease term that would be agreeable to the Public Works Committee. And the reason we're having a public hearing tonight is because anytime the city enters into a lease for more than 120 days for more than $500, we're required to have a public hearing so the public can know the terms of the proposed lease. The information that's included with your agenda gave a fairly detailed description of what the lease terms are. It's $300 a month, not more than 12 months, and the tower is going to be situated basically out in the middle of an alfalfa field. It's going to be 80 foot tall. It's totally temporary. It'll be drilled in the ground pretty far, so it's not going to go anywhere. But at the end of the lease, they're just going to be able to pick it up and drive it away. It's going to be self-contained in a trailer. And the location that they've chosen, and it is going to be an exhibit that's made a part of the lease, it's clear from the location that they've cited that if this 80-foot tower falls in any direction, 360 degrees, it's going to fall in the middle of a field. There's no structure or anything nearby that could possibly get damaged. The location is approximately direct east of the wastewater treatment facility. So for reference point, if you drive to the end of the padded or the paved surface by the wastewater treatment facility and look straight to the east, you're going to be able to see the tower. The intention is that it would be erected sometime before Christmas, but again, it's a temporary lease, $300 a month, and the recommendation is that you authorize the mayor and finance officer to enter into this short-term lease.
Well, Stan, with that being said, then I'll open this up to a public hearing. And is there anyone that would like to speak to the issue out in the audience? If not, is there anything else, Stan, that you'd like to add as far as the public comment?
Just one thing, that the lease that's going to be executed has been drawn up by the Brookings Municipal Utilities. The Watertown Municipal Utilities has similar leases, because if you look at our blue water towers, you'll often see things blinking or that are clearly antennas. We have a model tower lease that I've prepared for when Municipal Utilities enters into a lease. I've reviewed the 12-page lease agreement that Brookings Utilities prepared. It is, with a few semantic differences, almost identical to the one we have.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Is there anyone in the audience then to speak to this issue? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and request council action for the approval of a proposed lease of city property to the Brookings Municipal Utilities. Is there a motion, please? So moved by Alderman Heller. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in,
I
yes.
got one question. Stanton, we already rent out one of the towers to them, don't we? Water towers?
Yeah,
Is that correct? Is this going to be an addition or going to be a substitute for that?
The way that they've described it to me, Dennis, and it doesn't take long for them to talk out of my pay grade, and they do it pretty quick when they start throwing these kinds of terms at me, but they indicate to me that the need for this type of structure is to enhance the current wireless coverage that they offer in Watertown. Currently, our tower site located on the Millette Standpipe water tank located in Watertown is at full capacity. They're concerned with capacity exhaustion, because if the network is full, then in some cases 911 coverage could be actually affected. So they want to put this temporary tower out there in the middle of a field, find out where the best possible location for a future permanent tower is. So they're going to be using Millette. That's the primary. This is going to be secondary, while they try to figure out where's the best spot moving forward for a permanent location. And they're fairly satisfied it's not going to be here.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Stan. Agenda item number 4 is the authorization to advertise for bids for the purchase of a truck for the airport department. And Eric?
Hey, good evening. Your agenda item is just to go out for a budgeted 2008 vehicle, which has been approved by the Public Works Department.
This is to allow the local or people to be able to have an opportunity to bid
Yeah,
on this,
correct.
Okay, so is there a motion then to, so moved by Alderman Gizelbeck, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 5 is the airport capital improvement plan. Eric, again?
Okay, I apologize for this capital improvement plan coming to you kind of at the end of the year, but the FAA has kind of changed the way the CIP is going to work for the airport, and we're kind of caught in between cycles here. So what you have in front of you is the airport CIP plan, which is AIP eligible. That portion of the federal government will pay for. Between is 2009 to 2011, and then you see kind of a long range between 2011 to 2019. I won't go into specifics as to what each item is. You can read those, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I just need authorization from the mayor to sign a validation to the FAA to proceed forward.
Okay. Is there a motion then to approve this capital improvement, or to allow, how would you say that again, Eric?
Just allow you authorization to sign the validation form.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect? So moved by Alderman Solberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Now the questions.
Okay. The design for the new runway now,
you said that that's gonna be delayed further than 11, right?
Well, like we talked to in Public Works, one of the ideas was to slide the runway back in order to accommodate a fuel farm or such. But the FAA will not participate in our new fuel farm, so the runway was not moved. It will stay exactly where it is in 2010.
What are we actually looking at for expense here, Eric, as far as what we've changed?
Not too much. The only thing that would really be additional to what it wasn't on the city CIP budget for 2007 is probably the runway and a more expensive airport layout plan.
I see.
One other comment, there was a change from our discussion at Public Works, which I think is your question. In 2009, we're including a land purchase that's reimbursable for $116,000.
Thank you, Herb. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item number 6 is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's the Good Neighbor Next Door program. And Rick?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm glad to have backup here in case I stumble. Darlene Bresson with the United States Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Agency is here as well. And depending on the time, we might have some other visitors and guests to speak to this as well. The source of my information is going to be an October 31st letter from Cheryl Miller of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in the Sioux Falls field office. I also visited with her this afternoon for a little bit more information. But what we're talking about is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, referred to as HUD. It might be easier for me to say rather than saying that several times this evening. But we're going to talk about HUD's Good Neighbor Next Door program, which gives full-time local law enforcement officers, teachers, and firefighters, emergency medical technicians the opportunity to purchase HUD foreclosed homes at half price when they're sold to the public. And the program is designed to promote community renewal by offering these professionals an incentive to live in those neighborhoods in most need of revitalization. And that's in HUD's opinion. The Federal Housing Administration, in her letter, Ms. Miller talks about the Federal Housing Administration, known as FHA. There might be a foreclosure process, and she describes that a little bit. But before the property is sold, HUD offers this special community renewal program for full-time law enforcement officers, teachers, firefighters, and EMTs. And through the Good Neighbor Next Door program, the professionals can contribute to the community revitalization in these neighborhoods that we'll talk about here in a little bit, while becoming homeowners by purchasing a HUD-owned property. HUD provides a substantial incentive, actually 50% incentive for those professionals in our community who are willing to take advantage of this program that deals with only foreclosed homes. The program is specific only to revitalization areas, and I'll bring up a map showing what that means. If we can all agree that that postage stamp was Watertown or our vicinity. I'll zoom in just a little bit more. You can see, starting to see the shapes of the locations of these revitalization areas that have been identified by HUD for eligibility into the Good Neighbors Next Door program. I'll just take just a few minutes here, and there it comes. This probably will provide a pretty good view of our community and the areas that are eligible for participating properties. Just to give us, of course, you can see the airport, 21st Street West located here, Highway 212 on the south here. Major landmarks, of course, the Big Sioux River. This comes up to just a small section of 3rd Avenue North, parallels 1st Avenue North on over to approximately the location of the feed mill over here on Highway 81. Then it follows 4th Street down, and this is 2nd Avenue South over to the intersection of 2nd Avenue South and 2nd Street West, and then again on down to Highway 212. There's actually 3 areas there, but you can see they're all in the same general vicinity. What these two colors here, the larger areas, Both meet the low to medium income criteria and low homeownership rate criteria established by HUD. That's why they suggested those for revitalization areas. The other block right here, traced or enclosed by the more purple boundary, meets the low medium income criteria and is again adjacent to the other revitalization areas. Some interesting facts that I learned from the handouts. What is the occupancy period? You buy this home for 50% or 50 cents on the dollar. How long do I have to be in it? 3 years is the minimum occupancy. And what if I don't? Planning and zoning officials don't get to do this. I'm going to pretend I'm a firefighter tonight. If I was to buy this and participate in the program, if I don't stay there for 3 years, HUD will work with that property owner, that firefighter, and we'll prorate the difference back out. So if you're there for half the time, you get half the benefit, is how it works. Do you have to be a first-time home buyer to take advantage of the program? No, sure don't. Can you buy multiple units? No, this is for your primary residence. So I think that's some of the major talking points that I gleaned from the information that was provided to me by Ms. Miller. A couple questions came up in Public Works Committee. First of all, are the buyers required to repair the homes or bring them up to a certain standard? The answer to that question is no, there is no requirement to do that. The hope is, and that's not a requirement of the Good Neighbors Next Door program. It may be a requirement with first-time home buyers, with the VA program, other FHA programs, or other lending programs. But of the Good Neighbors Next Door program, it is, in fact, not a requirement. The hope is, of course, so with our local professionals moving in and taking advantage of this incentive, that, in fact, that will happen. And that's really the intent of the entire program. How did they come up with the three categories of occupations? Planning and zoning officials weren't included in that list. It was full-time firefighters, EMTs, teachers, and police officers. And in her words, it's really come down to, from HUD's perspective, it's the people that you really want to have in your neighborhood. Apparently that isn't planning and zoning officials, but it is firefighters and teachers and EMTs. It's really typically thought of as good influences to a neighborhood. It's kind of nice to see a cop car sitting outside. There's a feeling of security that goes along with that. So that's the kind of feeling that HUD is trying to get at there. The criteria for, a little bit more on the criteria for revitalization. Low income to medium income, what does that mean? That means that the medium income, according to their statistics for the area, is less than 60% of the medium income for the state. In this area, there's a couple of these areas that qualify for that. Low home ownership rates, that's really not an issue for most of these areas. It is for two, but it's marginal at best. And they're also seeing, according to Ms. Miller, that this is probably going to be a limited program, actually, because this don't seem to have that many foreclosures in Watertown, which is a good thing. We say it might be a limited program, which is kind of bad, but on the other hand, people aren't defaulting on their loans, which says a lot for our community. Other communities, Watertown will be the fourth if we move forward with this tonight, the fourth community in our state. Rapid City, there have been 3 loans of this kind. Sioux Falls, there have been 24 loans of this kind. In Aberdeen, they are a participating community, but as of this date, no sales yet. And there aren't too many FHA foreclosures in Aberdeen as well, according to Ms. Miller. So with that, I would look for your recommendation to allow the mayor to sign the document provided in your packet, identifying these and including these revitalization areas in the Good Neighbors Next Door program.
And that has to be in by the end of this month, is that correct? Rick?
November 30th.
Okay.
Darlene, any other comments? I think the answer to that is yes. Here she comes.
I just wanted to say that it's a great opportunity to provide housing for the people that provide the safety and the education for our children, and I think it would be I would really recommend that the council pass the resolution. I'm with the group that's working for workforce housing, and we've been here before, and we've gotten funding from the city to do the assessment, and we're still looking for land. So if you find any or know of any, let us know. So you've got any questions that I can answer, I'll be glad to do that.
I do. You say you're looking for land. What? Now, these are houses that are financed through the Federal Housing Administration, and somebody has lost their loan, or their house is being repossessed, and you're offering them for sale to these three professions.
Correct. Two different topics. One was I'm with a group who's working to develop lots for affordable housing.
Oh, okay.
So
That
it's-
doesn't have anything to do
No,
with
it
what
has
you're
nothing
asking
to do
tonight.
with that.
Okay.
no. Just giving you an update on where we were with that.
Okay. Don't confuse a confused council.
Question regarding the foreclosures. How many are there in this area, these areas?
Well, I don't work with HUD. I work with USDA Rural Development. I know that we do not have very many of them. With the market in Watertown, very few affordable housing. And so I would imagine that if a homeowner does in fact get in trouble, if they put it up for sale, they're able to sell it. And so then it would not go to the foreclosure process. So that's probably why we're not getting a lot. Also, we've got a good economy, good jobs. We don't have any, downturn in the economy. And so that speaks well also for the community of Watertown.
Thank you. Rick, you had a statement?
Oh, okay. Sure.
Ms. Miller did provide some facts to answer that question, Mr. Garnos. There are currently 167 active FHA loans in Watertown, and her hope, of course, is that none will go to the foreclosure. But in the last 5 years, there have been 15 FHA foreclosures in Watertown.
Thank you.
Mayor, could I ask just
Yes.
a quick work before you get away? For people who are listening who may be interested, how are applicants, maybe you answered this question, but how are applicants chosen? Is it first come, first serve, or how will the process work?
They're to work through their realtor, Stanton.
Yeah,
That's one of the
That's the place to
requirements.
start, is through the realtors. Get the offer on the table first of all, get your financing in line, and then visit with HUD, and that's how they have to, there's actually, as it turns out, there's a first mortgage and a second mortgage for the incentive portion of the program, is how it works.
And they can get in with at least $100 down, and they can finance closing costs and everything with this, so,
Okay,
yeah.
that's beyond my
Yeah.
level of knowledge there.
Yes, Dennis?
This is an ongoing program. Is there any termination date, or how would the program ever terminate?
I don't know the answer to that. There is, with the information that we've been given, a termination deadline or date has not been contemplated. Darlene, are you able to?
I would think it would be ongoing.
Darlene Bresson suggested it's probably going to be an ongoing program. And it might be, in visiting with Sherry Miller, she suggests that if the community wants this, there might be room in our community to expand these existing revitalization areas or look for other areas in our community as well, if there's continued interest in offering this opportunity.
So these houses we're talking about are just in this area? I'm not quite sure what the city has to do with a house being repossessed and resold to somebody.
What we're being asked to do is to sign off on being a part of this program. That's
Yeah.
the only thing we have to do, is allowing
And
me
how are
to,
we a part of the program? Just as
by
a
allowing
ci-
those
by
areas to be designated as the Good Neighbor Program.
Just those areas.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So if HUD has if the Federal Housing Administration has a house with a mortgage someplace else in town, it doesn't apply to the program?
That's correct.
That's correct, and it only applies to foreclosed FHA loans.
Mrs. York, to answer your question, we'd probably have to go back and ask HUD to have another area to be included if that were the case.
But these were the three areas that were identified when I received the information, and these were the three areas that I was asked to sign off on as being eligible for this Good Neighbor Program. So with that, any other questions?
I would so move the acceptance of this program.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Walder. Any other additional questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Next is the open. Is there any items for the open?
Yes, Your Honor, on behalf of the City Council, I would like to move a resolution of congratulations to our mayor and his fiancee for their recent engagement. How about that? Is there a second?
Okay, well, all in favor, aye. Thank you. You got me there. Thank you very much. Any other items for the open? If not, then we'll move to old business. We have an assessment roll for the 2007 Street and Alley Project number 0701-B, resolution number 07-62. At the last meeting, we were asked to approve this. A couple of the property owners took issue with the assessment amount. We decided then to hold off until this meeting where we would meet privately with the two property owners to iron out these differences. And what the issue was that what they were stating was that because of the municipal utilities doing work in the alley, this is what precipitated the need to, which caused the problem as far as drainage and that. And if it was not that happening, then there would not have been a need to black tar the alleyway and that. And so when we met with these folks, Mr. Lehner from the Assistant General Manager of the Municipal Utilities Department provided records and so forth to show that what they were alleging really wasn't the case. And Steve, would you like to make any comments in regards to that?
I would only be here to answer questions if anybody has. Do you have the letter that I sent out?
Yes, that's correct. There was a letter sent out, again, stating that the service that was performed in the alleyway and so on would not have affected the drainage or any impact to elevation and that. And so with that being stated, why I would ask that there be a motion then to approve the assessment roll. So moved. Motion by Alderman Solom. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Heller. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Steve. Is there any other old business to come before the council? If not, any new business? Any liaison member reports?
I have a couple of things. First of all, Safety Committee meeting tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. And then also as a liaison to the Watertown Housing Authority, you'll notice new driveways going in at all the Watertown Housing houses that they own. And that's just significant to let you know how they keep up their property. Their property is always very nice looking and very well kept. And I see Linda in the crowd, and we owe her thanks for that little effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one
Yes,
thing
yes.
is on behalf of the Park and Rec Department, you can now look on the city website and get the full minutes of the meetings plus the agendas.
Thank you.
One other thing, Mayor, I'll just remind those folks that are on the Finance Committee that we do have a meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 upstairs.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have one on the Westview addition. Rick, could you put that up on the map, on the view so people know exactly what we're talking about? This came before you on September 15th, or the November 15th meeting. And at that time, you rejected the zoning from R2 to R3. In the meantime, I've had a chance to visit with Jack Carr, representing Steve Horning, and we met up at the property, and it appears that that property would fit the three zoning in all aspects. And the planning, they met with the planning committee, and they were unanimous that it should come back to you folks to take a look at it once again and approve that zoning from R2 to R3. Now, this is up on 13th Street, Rick? West end of 13th?
This is 13th Street West, yes, and 6th Avenue North. Water filtration plant to the north across what used to be a street. It's no longer a street. But.
In the meantime, he's talked to all the residents along the street, and most of them, I think a majority of them, said no problem with that change of zoning. We were voting on zoning only, and we talked a lot about building. If it doesn't meet your approval, it could be not approved at the building office.
Yep. Anything else?
Any questions on that? But that will come up in the next couple of meetings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, there will not be a need for executive session tonight, and with that, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved by Alderman Solberg. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Solomon. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.